Good morning, everyone. This is our Friday Fuel, our first of the year Friday Fuel, and I am delighted today to have Kim Alden here from the Kim Alden team from Compass. That's what I'm going to say, from Compass. It is a pleasure. I was just in your office. It was a pleasure to be in your office, and it is a pleasure to have you. So we've kind of met a little bit, so I'm going to ask you, since I don't know you really well yet, tell me a little bit about yourself.
I'm very driven, very family focused. Try to spend as much time as I can with my grandkids, and take care of my elderly mom when I can. So it's, I feel like I have 2 full-time jobs sometimes, and I just have to try to squeeze in my family.
Yes. Running a team is hard, and that's what you're doing, is you're running a team. And I want to talk about that in a little while. But first, let me ask you one of the questions people are always curious about. Tell me about how you got into real estate.
So I was in the pharmaceutical skincare company, and I was getting divorced, and I needed something that was going to give me the flexibility to be able to manage 2 teenagers. And so one of my children's therapists said, "Have you thought about real estate? You'd be great." So I was like, well, that sounds good. I'll go.
Okay.
So I looked it up. I took a class. It was a week long. And, they kind of open up your brain, throw in 3 phone books of information. And I took the exam probably a week and a half after I did the class, passed, started my career, and had another job at the same time because just getting divorced, and just sat and did 2 open houses Saturday and Sunday. So there was 4 over the weekend, so that again I could build up my sphere. I took the floor calls when I could, when there used to be a lot of floor calls, and just worked hard and followed up. The one thing that I learned early on is customer service, and I learned that from my first job and probably all the jobs I had before that. Customer service is key.
How long did it take you to get your first transaction?
6 months.
Yeah. That's the thing that the new agents are always curious about. How long did it take?
Yeah, 6 months.
Did it go better after that then?
Yeah.
Did one thing led to another pretty
Right.
quickly?
After the 6-month period, it was really a consistent paycheck after that.
Okay.
I think it just took a lot, like filling that funnel. They always talk about filling that funnel.
Yes.
So it just took some time to fill that funnel.
You mentioned customer service. I want to talk about that again, because as many as I've done, I'm doing these interviews, one of the things I hear again and again has to do with customer service. Give me an idea of what you mean when you are talking about customer service.
So it's keeping the consumer in the loop of what's going on. And I always tell my team, no news is still news. They just want to know, because if you don't follow up, someone else is going to. They want to know. In today's society, people want to know something instantly. I have a client right now. I mean, I'm not even hanging up the phone, and she's texting me, what did they say, what did they say, what did they say? So it's just staying on top of your clients.
Okay.
Making sure that they know everything you know. And again, if you haven't heard from someone, let them know, look, I left another voicemail. They still haven't called me back.
And how are your clients wanting you to communicate with them? Has that changed over time?
It depends on who it is. The older people want that phone call. I like the phone calls myself, because for me, text messaging is dead end. In fact, Robert Rifkin just did something on our retreat in November, and he had talked about, he was texting with his 10-year-old daughter, and he said, I misunderstood what she was saying. When she was really excited, I thought she was really mad. And so for me, I try to only use text messages. I'm on my way, caught a train, something like that. I really like the voice-to-voice, face-to-face. I feel like that's where you build the rapport.
Okay. You've built a big team.
I have.
So talk about the path you came to. You started as an individual.
Probably 18 months in, I hired my first assistant, who was part-time.
What did you have that assistant do for you?
She did paperwork. She did MLS data entry, did some marketing for me. In her role, she was part-time and then kind of grew into full-time. So we started with that, and then I got busier and busier, and I do mostly listings. And so I had listings, and I don't believe in dual agency. I just don't feel that it's right for the consumer.
Okay.
And so I hired an agent to take the leads. And that worked out, and then they got busy and hired another agent. And then I was fortunate enough to be hired by Fannie Mae for their foreclosures. So I worked with Fannie Mae, used to manage about 250 assets at a time. And then at that point, my team was about 10 people. And again, because it's lead generated. And again, business brings business. So every time we had more business, we hired more people. And then you have to understand when you hire people, not everyone's me.
Yes, that's a really, I think that's a really critical thing that you just mentioned. Building
Yeah.
a team, to build a team of only you
Right.
would be a terrible team.
Right. So we right now have some people who, work part-time, some people who work full-time. And again, it's all about the culture that you're bringing. Everyone has the same goal, is to do the best for the client. And it's hard when the culture kind of goes south. We had, and that's happened. And people building a team have to understand people come for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And so some people are going to come in, learn what they can, and move on. And I have a lot of team members who have come to my team, learn what they can, write me a great note and say, thanks so much, I learned so much, I'm going to go out on my own. I still talk to those people. Like, never burn a bridge, because you never know when you're going to run into this person in a transaction. So, foreclosures came and went. Then we had a team, we were paying for Zillow leads and working, with that. And that did really well, which led me into being a flex partner with Zillow. So right now we have 34 people on our team. And it sounds like a lot, but you have to understand it's 450 calls, can be up to 450 calls a month. So, we need people who want to take that. We also, work with HomeLight, which a lot of agents do. So we have a huge lead generation source, and that's why the team is so big, because there's no way I can handle all of that. I still am in production because, again, that opens opportunities for open houses, sign calls, things like that.
Where is your personal business coming from mostly right now?
My sphere.
It's from your sphere.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's, again, touching your sphere multiple times a year. If you find something good, like our latest one, we had an attorney group come in and they spoke about how to lower your taxes. And, and again, their whole thing was looking at your tax bill, is it fair? So we sent that out as a mass mailer to all of my team's clients, and we got the biggest response on that because it was something that was genuine to them, that they're like, oh yeah, I want to know what my taxes are.
I think that's a mistake that a lot of marketing does. It's really cool about me, then they don't care. The
Right.
clients don't care about that. But when you give them something that is important to them, so I think the tax thing was a perfect example of that.
Right. It's items of value. I just did one for all the national stats for real estate for January, because I think people like to know what's going on in other parts of the United States. And then our second one is going to be radon awareness, because January is radon awareness month.
And the radon rules have changed a little bit. So
Right.
I don't know that that's a big thing the consumer needs. The consumer certainly needs to know, but that's a big thing that your agents are going to need to know.
Right. Right.
Where do your agents, do you have a geography that your agents work in?
We're probably a 20-mile radius from Barrington. But again, I have, people in the city that I work with. So I would say the majority of the business is in a 20-mile radius of Barrington. And we have people who live, within that radius. So we have somebody in St. Charles. We have a couple people in Lake in the Hills. We have people in Palatine, McHenry. So we're kind of scattered all over the place.
What's been the biggest challenge with building the team? The thing that you have found most difficult about that?
There's a couple of things, and my team manager who's on now is probably laughing as I'm getting asked that question. It's hard to get people to show up. COVID really made people very comfortable staying home in their pajamas, so it's hard to get people back to face-to-face, voice-to-voice. That's probably my biggest challenge. And I was at a conference in November, and that was everyone who was there, that's their biggest challenge, is getting people to show up. Nobody wants
My biggest challenge as well.
Nobody wants to be in the office. Nobody wants to do anything. And when I started in real estate, I sat in that office every second that I could and just listened to everything around me, because every time someone was on the phone, I was like, oh, that's a good answer. Oh, that's a good answer. And it really brought up problems. So when the problem happened to me, I knew kind of what to say. And I kind of learned along the way. And most of my assistants that sat in the same room with me said, I learned more sitting next to you than I ever could have learned in a textbook.
And that's probably the thing I am most concerned with for agents who are growing up now and coming in now. I call that's on-the-job training is what that is.
Right.
And I remember when I first started too, you went to the office. You had office meetings every week. You went to the office and you listened to that. You also went on tour. You went on broker tours. And if you were smart, you went on broker tours with someone else who was experienced in the car. Because what you wanted to hear was that conversation in the car, and that's never written down anywhere, that you don't learn it unless you are actually in the car right there.
Yeah, we had 4 people, and we went on tour every Tuesday.
And they would say things like, do you know that street over there, it floods? Oh, I didn't know that. Or, the first company I worked with was a family-owned business that had been in business long enough that I think that one member of the family or another in the small town I lived in had sold their house. Or they'd gone to school with whoever lived in the house at that point.
Right.
So they would say, oh yeah, that's the house that had the fire that did this, and so you learned all this stuff that coming in, reading your books, you would never know.
You would never know. And it's hard. And I think every real estate team lead struggles with having people come in the office. I know our office is beautiful, and, people come in for our team meetings, and then they're 10 minutes later, they're gone. So we're running the 12-week year this year, and we're hoping, or this quarter, and we're hoping to reward people to come in. So I bought these little raffle balls. They can put them in, and we're going to do raffle gift cards just for, if you're there an hour, you get to put a ball in the...
Well, when I came and spoke, you let me do a drawing, and I think it was a coffee card that I got.
Yeah.
But it was nice that you're incentivizing. We're working on incentives here to get people to come back.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out what those incentives need to be.
Right. It's hard. It's hard to get people, again, I understand everyone has a busy life, and it's, what do you do? We try to bring in a speaker that's going to give us some information. The team loves when you come in and speak because they always walk away with a wealth of knowledge. We did continuing education in our office. Mm-hmm. And so we had a pretty good crowd for that. But that's the biggest thing, is show up and learn. And I learn something every day. Everyone goes, oh, well, how do you know this? Because I learn something every day.
And I think that's important. Are you a big reader?
I try to be. I'm probably better with the soundtrack of the book.
Okay, so in your car, so you're listening in the car, yes. I've been thinking about this lifelong learner thing a lot, and that's the other thing that I think is a thread that comes through as I interview successful people, the fact that they are lifelong learners. They are always reading something new or looking at Facebook, or something has sparked an idea, and they're thinking, and sometimes it's nothing to do with real estate that they're thinking about, but they're learning something new. They're opening themselves up for those new ideas.
Right. So I started probably maybe a month ago. We have a group text message on Telegram. And so every morning I put a motivational because I look at a motivational. There's days I don't want to leave my house. There's days I'd rather go. It's snowing. I don't want to I don't want to go out in the snow. I don't want to go out in the rain. So I read motivationals, and that helps me. So I try to find something, good to share. Yesterday's was about, it's okay to make a mistake. That's how you learn. You learn more from your mistakes than your successes.
I would agree that it's certainly more painful. It's a painful way to learn, but you do learn.
You do learn, and it's about just keeping them in the game. It was a rough year in 2023, no question.
That's what I was going to ask you about. It was a rough year in 2023, and then the year got even harder.
Yeah.
And in the end of last year, it got even harder.
Yeah.
How are your people doing with that? What are you doing for helping them?
Well, we're trying to keep them motivated. We're trying to give them tools and tricks to work with. A lot of people just checked out and said, I'm just going to step back. I don't want to do this right now. It's hard. And that's what sparked the 12-week year. And again, my team manager is the one who's behind that. And we came up with that idea when we were at the Zillow convention, or since he came up with it. Just because, again, it kind of makes it shorter, so you have to meet your goals in a shorter period of time instead of, okay, here, let's hit the road running, and then we'll check in with you in 12 months. Yeah, and hope it did well. And when you cram it into a shorter period of time, some people like a deadline, and some people are like, oh, I'll start that next week. Oh, I'll start that next week. And now they can't, because next week is a new month.
Two things you said interested me in that. One is that you have a team manager, so I'm going to come back to that. The other is that you were at the Zillow convention, which had nothing to do with Compass. Well, I don't mean it that way, but you're looking for any kind of outlets to be learning.
Right. Yes.
So you're attending. What are your favorites?
Really, this year, the only one I was able to attend was Zillow's. I wanted to go to the Compass retreat, which was wonderful. They did send some of the recordings, but my daughter was expecting, so I had to stay close to home. In fact, the Zillow one, I was a little nervous. She called in one of the sessions. I'm like, oh no, are you in labor? Yeah. So I only went to that one. But again, it was nice to be with other team leads that have similar sized teams and kind of what their struggles are. And everyone's struggle is the same. How do you recruit? How do you keep them motivated? How do you make them accountable? Because again, they're all independent contractors, so they're not your employees.
I want to go back to the team manager, but first, something else you sparked to me. Do you go out and actively seek people for your team, or do they come to you?
Both.
Okay.
Both. We have an ad right now running. We're looking for like-minded people. So there is an ad, and again, we get a lot of creative sandwich makers who apply, people who aren't in real estate. And then we've gotten some incredible people from our ads. And then, word of mouth. I've got a lot of people who've been with me for a long time.
That's a good sign when they've been with you for a long time.
Yeah, a lot of people that have been with for a long time. And again, we're available 24/7 to answer their questions, to help them write a contract that they don't know how to write if it's an escalation clause. I mean, who ever thought, if you would have asked me when I got into real estate, would you ever have anyone waive an appraisal? I would have said, absolutely not.
I would say, I didn't even when I started in real estate, which was a long time ago, I would have said 5 years ago. And someone would have waived an appraisal 5 years ago, or a home inspection. I would have said, what, are you crazy?
Yeah.
And that was all that was happening there for a while.
Right. It was, it was busy, and I think it's really hard to keep them motivated when they won't come in. And that's the thing. And so we do like Taco Tuesday, we did Cinco de Mayo, Margarita Day, and, just did some, some nachos. So we try to do little mini events to try to get people. The biggest complaint I hear from my team is it's too big, I don't know anyone. And so it's hard because when we do our Monday meetings, we're looking at a black screen. There's maybe 3 people with their face and everyone else is a black screen. So it's super hard for me and for my team manager to be like, hey, you don't even know if they're there. And you ask a question and it's quiet.
I am in some ways, and I know I have some of you on Zoom today, I am in some ways committed to never doing another Zoom meeting in my life. If I never had to do another meeting via Zoom, I'd be okay with that. And I'm still doing them here. You can't avoid it anymore.
Right.
But I'm with you. It's so hard to have people that you can't see because it goes back to what you talked about in the very beginning. I like that eye to eye, the face to face. And it's so hard to establish that when you're looking at black screens and people's names.
Well, and when you're looking at someone, you can actually see like, oh, the light bulb just went off.
Right.
Or, I need to explain this a little bit further. But you can't see that with black screens. And then there's no way to know if they're there.
I've had people ironing on some of them. Because I make them a lot of times, if I'm doing CE, I make them stay on screen for CE. I've had them ironing. I've had them cook delicious dinners where really what you should just do is invite us all to your house right now. I mean, the craziest things that I've seen people doing on that. There are some new rules coming in, I'll just throw this in, about doing Zoom meetings, video meetings in your car. So you're going to see some information coming out from NASBAR in a couple of weeks that and unfortunately it's very ambiguous what the state decided to write the law is, but it essentially says if you are on Zoom, you've got your screen zooming and you're driving, no, can't do that. Even if you turn it off and you're just listening to whatever's going on there, that's still a virtual meeting, and that may be problematic for you if they catch you doing that. So there'll be some information coming out about that pretty soon.
Yeah, we have a lot of people in their cars.
We have a lot of people in the cars who are driving in the cars and listening, yes.
We have a lot. And I think another problem that we experience is like we have a once a month team meeting and we always get the text the morning of, oh, I have an appointment. Oh, I have a home inspection. Oh, I have, a doctor's appointment. Oh, I have this. And it's like this, we ask you to come 12 times a year. Like it's an appointment in your planner. Like
I don't really understand that.
So that's hard too. And it's like, and again, they're independent contractors, so it's really difficult. And we always try to have some type of really good information so that they walk away with some knowledge or a nugget or something that, Compass is doing something, we're doing something we're working on, sharing a training that either Steve or I had just done. And it's hard to get everyone together. I mean, we're lucky if we get 75%.
I think if you're getting 75%, you're doing better than most. That's truly, and clearly you're doing a lot of things to keep that kind of percentage up.
Right.
You have a team manager. What does your team manager do?
He helps me manage the team. He manages our Zillow book completely. So he does all of that. He plans our meetings. We plan them together. He is always the presenter at the meetings. So he is another person to go to for questions. He's a managing broker. So he knows more than me. Okay. So I said, I don't want to wear that hat yet. And so he's just a wealth of information. He came over about 18, 19 months ago, changed the culture, and just really has made the team skyrocket.
Okay. two other things. You talked about culture, but I want to go back to the Zillow thing because, mostly when people say the word Zillow, people spit. We hate them. They're bad. They're the worst thing that ever happened. Clearly, that's not how you feel about them.
It's not. They're here. They're not going anywhere. So why fight the system? I used to pay for Zillow. We used to buy leads. I don't remember. We used to spend $10,000 or $15,000 a month on leads. And then my growth manager advisor at that point came to me and said, hey, you're going to get a phone call about an interview. It's going to sound crazy. Just take the interview. And that was being part of the Flex team. So there's 119 Flex teams throughout the United States, and we're one of them. So we have an abundance of leads. And again, one of Steve's jobs is to make sure that everybody's meeting their numbers because, again, you have to have certain answer rate. You have to, your ALM. You have so many sales you have to make. So he manages all those numbers.
Okay.
So there's a lot of responsibility with that, but it's also an enormous amount of leads that go out and opportunities for the team. Some of my senior team members, they've built their sphere from Zillow. So Zillow's pretty reasonable on 2 leads or 2 years, and then they become yours. So if you nurture them, do a good job, then you're building your sphere.
Okay.
So I wouldn't want to fight them, so I was fortunate enough to be able to join them.
One of the things that I'm hearing as I'm listening to your structure, this is not a couple guys doing real estate. This is business.
This is business. We have systems for everything. We have a procedure manual that basically my son, who does all of our ops, wanted to open up my brain, he said, and literally walk people through real estate, like how I do it, why I do it, what's the reasoning behind it. So we have it's a huge procedure manual. We have 2, and people find this crazy. We only have 2 admins. They're both, transaction coordinators. We have somebody who is 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, somebody who works 2 hours a night, and then Saturday, Sundays.
Okay.
And literally, we have agent docs. It takes less than 5 minutes once you do it before. They put all the pertinent information. We take it and we run with it. I want my salespeople out selling instead of behind a computer fumbling with the paperwork.
Got it.
So we'll do all of their MLS information. And this way, too, we know that it's done correctly.
Yeah, that is a nice thing. Yes.
And if
no
the
bad
remarks
phone calls.
and
Yeah.
if the remarks are, we'll be like, hey,
well,
you want us to run it through ChatGPT?
I was going to say, are you using ChatGPT
yes,
too?
100%.
How are you using it?
We're using it in a lot of different ways to help with remarks. I'll always write my remarks and then I'll run them through ChatGPT and go, oh, that's a great adjective. Wouldn't have thought of that one. I don't do just copy and paste. I still want it to be my own. We use it for social media because, again, I want to do a social media campaign for 123 Red Street, Anywhere USA. It's a beautiful 4-bedroom house that's lakefront. What do you suggest for 7 posts in 3 months, and what time should I post it? And put it in a table format. And it just spits it out.
That's just like stunning, isn't it?
Yeah. And people, it's funny, in listing presentations I utilize ChatGPT. They're like, you do? I'm like, yeah, it helps us to be able to find the target words, find the right time to post, because it knows a lot more than I do.
One of the things that we've had someone come and do a presentation about using ChatGPT. He's going to come back in a month and do like the second section of what he was talking about because it was 3 hours and it's not even close to enough.
Right.
What I was stunned and surprised when I started fooling around with ChatGPT is how easy it was.
Oh, so easy.
So easy. Even someone who's not good at this could just tell it to be funnier, tell it to be sunnier, tell it to be
in the tone of whoever.
Yes.
And Compass actually embedded it's like ChatGPT into their homepage. And so it'll be like, learn how, Kim Alden speaks. And it'll try to get my tone and then I can like change what I did. This is how I changed it. And then I'll put it in the tone of my last remarks. Because, how many remarks have we all written? Welcome.
Oh, cute. Yeah.
So it really helps. Like I said, it gives me a lot of adjectives. But again, it's giving us data that we don't have. And so, again, for people who are executives, they're amazed that we utilize ChatGPT in our business.
Okay. We're coming to about the end of the time for your interview. What do you want to end up with saying?
Real estate, I think it's a love that I have. I don't think I could do what I do if I didn't love what I did.
Okay. Every day you love it?
Most days.
That's
There's
good.
days. There's
There's
days. There's days.
I have a question for you. Well, I'm going to end on this question. I noticed with some of the, and I don't mean older, but the agents who've been in business as long as I have, which makes us older, have turned a lot of their first clients into great friends. Have you found that to be the case?
Yes, absolutely. I was at the art fair in downtown Barrington, and I went with my daughter, and she was like, how many people are going to hug you?
Nice.
You know, and that's how my business has grown, just by, again, being personable, putting them in my shoes, treating them how I would want to be treated.
Okay. Kim, it's been lovely to have you. Thank you so much for spending the morning with us this morning.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
The views and opinions expressed by this presenter are theirs. They may not reflect the views of North Shore-Barrington Association of Realtors.